People who work to make money but have never been free can be called poor thinking, meaning people who will continue to work as slaves for the rest of their lives. On the other hand, people who can not only increase assets but also keep free time are called rich minds. In contrast, people who think poorly can make money, but they cannot gain freedom and become slaves. The first stage of increasing assets is to realize that you have been affected by society or your parents, and you have become a slave with poor thinking before you know it. 7 questions will be asked next. After you see the problem, you can pause and think about it first, and then look at the difference between your thinking and the rich. 1. Are you working for money? Most of you may think, of course. Others may answer, of course, I work for money, but not only for money, but I also work for self-growth or self-fulfillment. I think these answers are great, but the intent of this question is somewhere else. I work for the money. The moment you think that way, you are already entrenched in the mindset of the poor. What would a rich person think? They will think that I am not working for money as a slave, but that I am making money work as a slave to gain my peace of mind and freedom. For example, I have investments in real estate. This money will work for me 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, without a word of complaint. In other words, I am exchanging money, which is worthless, for something of real value. Keep this in mind. The poor think in terms of working for money. The rich think in terms of letting money work to gain peace of mind and freedom. 2. Which is more important, $30 or 1 hour? If you overread the question, you may think that the answer is 1 hour is important anyway. No, these 7 questions are not good or bad, but to let you understand yourself, so there is no right answer, no need to think too much. I want to ask you this question to answer the limited time of life, so an hour is more important than $30. How much money did you use to sell that hour, which was more expensive than $30, to the company? In other words, do you make more than $30 an hour? If your hourly rate is $30 or more, will there be money to help you earn money to create time for you now that you quit your job? If your hourly rate is enough to grow your wealth quickly, you should learn how to increase your assets. Time is limited, but money is unlimited, so in order not to waste my precious time, I created an automatic money-making mechanism that allows money to earn my time for me. 3. Do you feel happy when you buy your own house? Many people keep playing the cursed tapes of their parents' generation in their heads, thinking that they need their own house to be considered independent. Some people would like to buy a haven to give themselves peace of mind, and I can understand this feeling. But real estate is mostly a liability, not an asset. If you take out a loan for 30 years and must work for a lifetime to pay it off, you are voluntarily choosing to be a slave. Only the wealthy can afford to buy the kind of property in front of the station that can make a profit if it changes hands. Most people can only afford to buy a property whose equity has fallen after the loan is paid off. It's better than renting, right? Isn't it? If you want to be a slave to your home for 30 years, get a loan to buy a home. The premise of a mortgage is that you already own a property, and when you take out a mortgage on a property and invest in a better property, it becomes a very powerful financial tool. I want to reiterate that these 7 questions are not good or bad, but rather ask about your choices. Wealthy thinkers only buy high-value items that can be resold, or they buy houses that they don't live in, but can earn rent and make the property work for them. But only a few people can achieve this. 4. Do you aspire to earn $1 million a year? If you are an ordinary working person, you would aspire to earn $1 million a year, not to mention $100,000 a year. This is a trap question. It is not because the annual income of $1 million is too small. If you are obsessed with a nice annual income and work hard to earn money, but once you increase your expenses to improve your standard of living, you will spend money like water. So instead of sticking to money, focus on increasing your assets. People who think like rich people do not stick to their income. They focus on assets that they can keep on hand and generate income for themselves. The pursuit of annual income will not make you a rich person. 5. Whose fault is it that the weather is bad? You may answer that it is not anyone's fault, right? Sorry, but this is also a trap question. The point of this question is that rich people think that bad weather doesn't exist. For example, heavy snowfall during commuting time is the worst kind of weather, right? But for kids who want to play snowball fights or skiers who are annoyed by the lack of snow, this is the best weather. In other words, the weather is only as good as you think it is. It can be sunny, rainy, or snowy, but there is no such thing as good weather or bad weather. The same goes for market conditions. A market crash is either a bad thing or an opportunity at the drop of a hat. Incidentally, a stock price crash is a unique opportunity for investors. Simply put, assets are not increasing because the economy is bad, and the idea of blaming the environment is a poor man's mindset. It is the rich man's thinking that focuses on his thinking or actions and considers how to increase his assets in this environment. 6. How much tax do you want to pay? Of course, I don't want to pay any tax. I feel like I can hear such angry voices. But now, you may not be able to avoid paying a dime. If you are a working person, the government will make everyone pay the taxes they don't want to pay by withholding at the source. As with the question of which is more important, $30 or 1 hour, in this question, if you answered the above, your answer and action are contradictory. Not taking any action when you don't want to be taxed is a poor person's mindset. Even if you say that my country must pay taxes. Is that so? This kind of thinking, blaming the environment, is the poor man's mentality. There are ways to reduce taxes, not evade them. Let's explain that for insurance purposes, and increase your assets. The other is to unlock your mind from the clutches of money and perform the sixth stage of asset utilization that anyone can do. The key is to create a system that allows you to withhold a certain amount from your paycheck and give it to your future self. 7. Do you like to borrow money? You may think that just now you said you would become a slave to your home and now you are asking this question. It is not that the correct answer is yes, but that the richer you are, the more you are willing to borrow money. Why is that? The answer is simple. There are good loans and bad loans in this world. A mortgage or car loan that you must pay back desperately is a bad loan. These bad loans turn people into slaves. On the other hand, a loan to buy real estate and rent it out to collect rent is a loan that allows someone else to help you pay back the money without paying for it out of your pocket. As mentioned earlier, a mortgage loan can be a very powerful financial tool if you know how to use it. The concept of a bad loan that you must repay yourself and a good loan that someone else will repay for you is very simple, right? The rich thinkers will actively borrow good loans and use the rent, interest, or dividends to increase their assets. So, you can't have bad debt, but you can have good debt. What happens when you are always a slave? How did you answer the above 7 questions? Through these questions, do you realize that you are a slave with the mindset of a poor person? It doesn't matter if you answered all 7 questions with a poor person's mindset, because I used to be like that too. This video is dedicated to such a person. As I have mentioned many times before, I am not saying that poor people's thinking is bad. I just want you to realize the truth. If, after realizing it, you still think it's good to be a slave all the time, it doesn't matter, it's all your freedom. But there is one thing you need to know. A slave who is in debt and is suddenly unable to work for whatever reason is just sitting around waiting to die. For example, the risk of being laid off, injured, sick, or caring for a family member who is accompanying you out of work is abundant in this society. Because slaves have such a tenuous foothold. In the world of finance, there is a saying that the greatest risk is to do nothing. Here is Monopony. Welcome to like, comment and subscribe. See you next episode.